The download that changed everything. Cassidy Monroe had never been the type to trust algorithms with her love life. At 28, she had survived enough awkward first dates and ghosting incidents to know that finding genuine connection required more than a well-filtered photo and a witty bio. But here she was, sitting cross-legged on her apartment couch in Denver on a Thursday night, downloading the dating app that her best friend Rachel had been pestering her about for months. "Just try it for 1 week," Rachel had said during their lunch break earlier that day. "What's the worst that could happen? You meet some boring guys, delete the app, and I'll never bring it up again." Cassidy had laughed. But the truth was, she was lonely. Working as a marketing coordinator at Apex Innovations meant long hours, tight deadlines, and very little social life. Most of her conversations happened in conference rooms or through email threads. The idea of talking to someone who didn't want to discuss quarterly projections or brand positioning actually sounded refreshing. She created her profile with minimal effort, choosing a photo from her sister's wedding where she looked genuinely happy, and writing a bio that mentioned her love for hiking, terrible cooking skills, and an unhealthy obsession with crime documentaries. Then she started swiping, expecting nothing and hoping for even less. The match that stopped her heart, the notification came at exactly just as Cassidy was about to close the app and admit defeat. A match. She clicked on the profile and felt her breath catch in her throat. The main photo showed a man in a casual button-down shirt, sleeves rolled up, standing against a brick wall with golden hour sunlight catching the angles of his face. He wasn't smiling in that forced way most people did in dating photos. Instead, there was something thoughtful in his expression, like he had been captured mid-conversation about something that actually mattered. His profile name was simply JB. No full name, no job title. Just 2 letters that somehow felt more honest than the elaborate profiles. She had been scrolling through all evening. His bio was equally minimal. Looking for someone who values deep conversations over small talk. I believe the best connections happen when you're not trying too hard. Coffee enthusiast. Terrible at golf. Better at listening than talking. Before she could overthink it, Cassidy sent the first message. Terrible at golf? That's either refreshingly honest or a clever way to avoid golf dates. Either way, I respect it. The response came faster than she expected. Definitely the first one. I once hit a ball into a lake, then tried to hit another ball to knock the first one out. Spoiler alert, 2 balls in the lake. Cassidy laughed out loud in her empty apartment. And just like that, they were talking. Conversations that felt like coming home over the next 2 weeks. JB became the person Cassidy thought about first thing in the morning and the last voice she heard before falling asleep. Their conversations flowed with an ease that felt almost magical, jumping from childhood memories to philosophy. 2 ridiculous debates about whether cereal was a soup. He told her about growing up in Seattle, about losing his mother when he was 19, about the pressure of living up to expectations he never set for himself. She shared stories about her chaotic family, her fear of never being good enough, her secret dream of writing a novel someday. "What do you do for work?" she asked one night. 3 weeks into their nightly conversations, there was a pause before he responded. "I'm in business management. It's complicated and honestly pretty boring." "I'd rather hear about your day," she told him about her job at Apex Innovations, carefully avoiding specifics. "I work in marketing for a tech company. Lots of brainstorming sessions and campaign pitches. Sometimes I feel like I'm just throwing ideas at a wall and hoping something sticks." "I bet you're better at it than you think," he wrote back. "You have this way of making ordinary things sound interesting. That's a rare skill." His words made her feel seen in a way that nobody at the office ever did. At work, she was just Cassidy from marketing, the quiet one who took good notes and never pushed back in meetings. But to JB, she was someone worth knowing, worth listening to, worth staying up until midnight talking to. The man in the corner office Monday morning arrived with the usual chaos. Cassidy rushed into the Apex Innovations building at 8:45 a.m., clutching her coffee and mentally reviewing the marketing presentation she had prepared over the weekend. The executive team was announcing a new product launch, and her department had been invited to sit in on the strategy meeting. The conference room on the 15th floor was bigger than any space, Cassidy usually occupied. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked downtown Denver, and the long table could seat at least 30 people. She took a seat near the back, next to her colleague Trevor, and tried to steady her nerves. "Big day," Trevor whispered. "First time seeing the CEO up close?" Cassidy nodded. Jordan Blake was somewhat of a legend at Apex Innovations. At 35, he had built the company from a small startup into a major player in the tech industry. But he was also notoriously private, rarely attending company-wide events and keeping his personal life completely off social media. The room quieted as the executive team entered. Cassidy glanced up from her notes and felt the entire world tilt sideways. Jordan Blake stood at the head of the table, setting down his tablet and rolling up the sleeves of his shirt. The gesture was casual, automatic, and Cassidy had seen it before. She had seen it in a photo that JB had sent her 3 days ago when he was telling her it's about a stressful work situation, the hands. She recognized the hands first, the way his fingers moved, the watch on his left wrist. Then the profile, the way he stood, the thoughtful expression that she had stared at on her phone. Screened for hours, JB was Jordan Blake, her CEO. The man she had been falling for through a screen was the same man who signed her paychecks. The weight of recognition, the meeting became a blur. Cassidy heard words about market positioning and competitive advantage, but none of it registered. Her heart was pounding so hard she was certain Trevor could hear it. Every time Jordan spoke, she recognized the cadence of his voice from their late-night phone calls. Every gesture, every pause, every small smile matched the person she had been getting to know. He didn't recognize her. Why would he? Apex Innovations employed over 300 people. She was just another face in the crowd. Someone who existed in email signatures and department directories but never in his direct line of sight as the meeting wrapped up. Jordan's eyes swept across the room, thanking everyone for their time. His gaze passed over Cassidy without a flicker of recognition. She felt relief and disappointment in equal measure. Walking back to her desk, Cassidy's phone buzzed with a message. It was from JB. "Rough morning. Sometimes I feel like I'm just playing a role, you know? Like everyone sees the position, but nobody sees the person. Anyway, talking to you always makes things better. How's your day going?" Cassidy stared at the message, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. She should tell him. She should end this now before it became more complicated. But the truth was, she wasn't ready to lose him. "Not yet. My day just got really complicated," she typed back. "But talking to you makes it better too." She hit send and wondered how long she could keep dancing between two versions of the same man before everything came crashing down. The double life begins. Cassidy spent the entire Tuesday morning staring at her computer screen, pretending to work on a social media campaign while her mind raced through impossible scenarios. She had barely slept the night before, replaying every conversation she had ever had with JB and trying to match them with the corporate persona of Jordan Blake. The man who had told her about his fear of never being enough was the same man whose face appeared on the TRT cover of business magazines. The person who sent her silly memes at 2 a.m. ran a company worth millions. The voice that had become her favorite sound belonged to someone she was supposed to call Mr. Blake. In meetings, her phone buzzed with a message. "I know this is random, but I really want to meet you soon. I feel like I've known you forever, but I also feel like I won't really know you until I see you in person. Does that make sense?" Cassidy's hands trembled as she read Jordan's words. She typed and deleted 3 different responses before finally settling on something neutral. "It makes perfect sense. I feel the same way. I'm just nervous, I guess." "Me too," he replied immediately. "I haven't felt this way about anyone in years. Maybe that's why it's scary." The honesty in his message made her chest ache. He was being vulnerable with her, sharing parts of himself that he clearly kept hidden from the world. And she was lying to him, even if it was a lie of omission. An unexpected encounter Wednesday afternoon brought an unexpected complication. Cassidy was walking back from the break room, balancing her coffee and a folder of campaign mock-ups, when she literally collided with someone coming around the corner. The folder went flying, papers scattering across the hallway floor. "I'm so sorry. I wasn't watching where I was going, she stammered, dropping to her knees to gather the pages. No, that was completely my fault. The voice made her freeze. I was reading an email and not paying attention. Jordan Blake knelt down beside her, helping collect the scattered papers. Cassidy kept her eyes down, focusing on the documents as if they were the most important things in the world. These look great, Jordan said, glancing at one of the mock-ups. Is this for the new product launch? Yes, sir. Just some preliminary concepts. Cassidy finally looked up, forcing herself to meet his eyes. Up close, he was even more striking than in his photos. There were small details she hadn't noticed before, like the faint scar above his left eyebrow and the way his eyes crinkled slightly at the corners even when he wasn't smiling. I like the color scheme, he continued, handing her the last few pages. Bold, but not overwhelming. What's your name? I don't think we've officially met. Cassidy Monroe. I work in marketing. Well, Cassidy Monroe for marketing. Keep up the good work. He smiled, a genuine smile that transformed his entire face. And for a moment she saw JB instead of Jordan Blake. Then he stood, nodded politely, and continued down the hallway. Cassidy remained on the floor for several seconds after he left, trying to calm her racing heart. He had looked right at her, spoken to her, smiled at her, and still didn't recognize her as the woman he talked to every night. The realization was both comforting and devastating. The crisis. That changed everything. Friday brought chaos to Apex Innovations. A major client had threatened to pull out of a contract due to a miscommunication about project deliverables, and the entire company was in crisis mode. Cassidy found herself pulled into an emergency meeting with the executive team. Alongside her boss and two other marketing coordinators, Jordan sat at the head of the table, his expression serious as he listened to various department heads explain the situation. Gone was the warmth she had glimpsed in the hallway. This was CEO Jordan Blake, the man who made decisions that affected hundreds of employees and millions of dollars. We need a complete communications overhaul, Jordan said finally. I want proposals on my desk by Monday morning. Show me how we're going to rebuild this client relationship and prevent this from happening again. As the meeting broke up, Jordan's assistant approached Cassidy. Mr. Blake wants to see you in his office. 5 minutes. Cassidy felt her stomach drop. Trevor shot her a sympathetic look as she gathered her things and headed toward the executive floor. Jordan's office was exactly what she expected. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Minimalist furniture, shelves lined with business books and industry awards. He stood with his back to the door, looking out at the Denver skyline. His phone pressed to his ear. I understand, Dad, but I need to handle this my way. His voice was tight, strained in a way she had only heard once before. During a late-night conversation when he had told her about the pressure of running a company his father had helped fund. I'll call you back. He hung up and turned around, the tension in his face softening slightly when he saw her. Cassidy, thank you for coming. Please, sit down. She took a seat in one of the leather chairs facing his desk, trying to keep her hands from shaking. The conversation that shifted everything. I wanted to talk to you about the client situation. Sitting on the edge of his desk rather than behind it, the casual posture reminded her of the man who sent her photos of his messy home office. I saw your work earlier this week and I've been reviewing your campaign proposals. You have a perspective that I think could help us here. Thank you, sir. I'll do whatever I can to help, Jordan, he corrected gently. When it's just us talking strategy, you can call me Jordan. The formality makes me feel ancient. The comment was so similar to something JB had said about hating corporate hierarchy that Cassidy almost laughed. Instead, she nodded and tried to focus on the business discussion. For the next hour, they talked through communication strategies and client relationship management. Jordan listened to her ideas with genuine interest, asking thoughtful questions and building on her suggestions. It was the kind of collaborative conversation she had always imagined having with someone in leadership, but never expected to actually experience. You're really good at this, Jordan said finally, making complex problems feel manageable. That's a rare skill. The phrase echoed something he had said to her as JB, and Cassidy felt the walls between her two worlds beginning to crumble. She was falling for him all over again, right here in his office, watching him push his hair back in frustration and laugh at his own terrible joke about corporate jargon. "Can I ask you something personal?" Jordan said suddenly, his tone shifting. "And feel free to tell me if I'm overstepping." Cassidy's heart hammered. "Of course, do you ever feel like you're living a double life? Like there's the person you are at work, and then there's the real you that nobody here really sees?" The question was so direct, so vulnerable, that Cassidy forgot to breathe for a moment. This was the man she knew from their conversations, the one who asked deep questions at midnight and admitted his fears. "Every single day," she answered honestly. "Sometimes I think the real me would surprise everyone here." Jordan held her gaze for a long moment, something shifting in his expression. "I think the real you would be worth knowing." Messages that cut too deep that night. Lying in bed, Cassidy's phone lit up with a message from JB. "Today was brutal. The only thing that got me through was knowing I'd get to talk to you tonight. I've been thinking a lot about us meeting. I know I said I wanted to wait until the timing was right, but what if there's no perfect time? What if we just take the leap?" Cassidy stared at the message, tears blurring her vision. She thought about Jordan in his office that afternoon, the way he had looked at her like he was trying to solve a puzzle. She thought about the warmth in his voice when he talked about finding someone who understood the real him. "I want to meet you too," she typed. "More than you know. But I'm scared. What if meeting changes everything? What if the person you've been talking to isn't who you think I am?" "Impossible," he wrote back immediately. "I know you. Maybe not what you look like or what your laugh sounds like in person, but I know your heart. I know the way you think, the things that matter to you, the way you see the world. That's the part that counts." Cassidy closed her eyes, letting the tears fall. He was right. He did know her better than most people who saw her every day. And she knew him, the real Jordan Blake beneath the CEO persona. But that truth made everything more complicated, not less. What if there are things about me that you don't know? Things that might change how you feel? The response took longer this time. When it came, Cassidy read it 3 times, memorizing every word. "Then tell me. Whatever it is, I'd rather hear it from you than discover it later. I'm not looking for perfect, Cassidy. I'm looking for real. And you feel more real to me than anything has in years." At a decision point. Saturday morning, Cassidy woke up to a text from Rachel. "Coffee. You've been MIA all week and I need to hear about this mystery man you won't stop smiling about." An hour later, sitting in their favorite cafe, Cassidy finally told Rachel everything. The dating app, the connection with JB, the shocking discovery that he was Jordan Blake, the office encounter, the impossible situation she had created. Rachel listened without interrupting, her eyes growing wider with each new detail. When Cassidy finished, Rachel sat back in her chair and let out a low whistle. "Okay, so you accidentally fell in love with your boss through a dating app, and he has no idea that the woman he's falling for works for him. This is either the most romantic thing I've ever heard or the biggest disaster waiting to happen." "It's definitely the second one," Cassidy said miserably. "I should have told him immediately. Now it's been weeks, and every day I don't say something makes it worse. So tell him now. Before you meet in person, send him a message, explain everything, and let him decide what happens next. What if he's furious? What if he thinks I was manipulating him or trying to get ahead at work?" Rachel reached across the table and squeezed Cassidy's hand. "What if he understands? What if he's just as scared as you are? You said he's been vulnerable with you, sharing things he doesn't share with anyone else. Maybe he'll appreciate the honesty more than you think." The message that started the avalanche that night. Cassidy sat on her couch with her phone in her hands, composing and deleting the same message for over an hour. Finally, she forced herself to just write it and hit send before she could change her mind. "JB, I need to tell you something, and I need you to read all of it before you respond. I should have told you this weeks ago, but I was scared and confused. Now I'm terrified that waiting this long has made everything worse. The truth is, I know who you are. I've known for 2 weeks. I work at your company. I'm Cassidy Monroe, and I'm one of the marketing coordinators at Apex Innovations." She hit send and immediately wanted to throw her phone across the room. Instead, she kept typing, her fingers moving faster as the words poured out. "I didn't know when we matched. I had no idea JB was Jordan Blake. But then I saw you in a meeting, and I recognized you, and I panicked. I should have said something immediately, but I didn't want to lose what we had. These conversations with you have become the best part of my day. You make me feel seen and heard in a way nobody else does. I'm not telling you this because I want anything from you at work. I'm telling you because you deserve honesty and because I can't keep living in two worlds. I understand if you're angry. I understand if you never want to talk to me again. But I needed you to hear it from me. She sent the message and then dropped her phone like it had burned her. For 10 minutes, nothing happened. Then her phone rang. It was Jordan. The call that changed everything. Cassidy stared at her ringing phone. Jordan's name flashing on the screen. Her hand shook as she reached for it, nearly dropping it twice before finally answering. Hello? Her voice came out barely above a whisper. Cassidy. Jordan's voice was different than she had ever heard it, rough with emotion. I need you to tell me something, and I need you to be completely honest. How long have you known? 2 weeks. Since the executive meeting on Monday, I saw you and I recognized your hands from the photo you sent me, and then everything clicked into place. There was a long silence. Cassidy could hear him breathing, could picture him pacing wherever he was, running his hand through his hair the way he did when he was trying to process something difficult. 2 weeks, he repeated slowly. You've known for 2 weeks, and you kept talking to me every night? Why? Because I didn't want to lose you, Cassidy said, tears streaming down her face. Because for the first time in years, I felt like someone actually saw me, not just the role I play or the job I do. You made me feel like I mattered. You do matter, his voice cracked. God, Cassidy, you matter more than you know. But I can't figure out if I'm angry or relieved or just completely overwhelmed. You have every right to be angry. I should have told you immediately. I was selfish and scared, and I made everything more complicated than it needed to be. Where are you right now? Jordan asked suddenly. At home? Why? Send me your address. I'm coming over. We need to have this conversation face to face. The confrontation 30 minutes later, Cassidy heard a knock on her apartment door. She had used the time to change out of her pajamas and splash cold water on her face. But she knew she still looked like she had been crying. Because she had been, Jordan stood in the hallway, wearing jeans and a hoodie she had never seen him in at the office. His hair was messy, like he had been running his hands through it repeatedly, and his eyes were red-rimmed. He looked nothing like the polished CEO, and everything like the man who had told her his deepest fears at midnight. Can I come in? He asked quietly. Cassidy stepped aside and he walked into her small apartment, taking in the details. The bookshelf overflowing with novels, the terrible abstract painting her sister had given her, the coffee table covered in marketing magazines and half-finished crossword puzzles. This is very you, he said, a hint of warmth creeping into his voice. The you I've been talking to, I never lied about who I was, Cassidy said, closing the door behind him. I just didn't tell you where we had already met. Jordan turned to face her fully, and the intensity in his eyes made her breath catch. I've been trying to figure out when I started noticing you at the office. I keep going back through my memory, and I realized it was after we matched. Suddenly there was this person in meetings who asked interesting questions and had ideas that actually made sense. I started looking for you without even realizing it. You notice me? Cassidy's voice was small. Of course I noticed you. Wednesday, when we ran into each other in the hallway, I went back to my office and couldn't focus for an hour. There was something about you that felt familiar, but I couldn't place it. And then Friday, when we worked together on the client crisis, I kept thinking that talking to you felt like talking to someone I had known for years. You were figuring it out, Cassidy whispered. Jordan nodded slowly. I think part of me was, but I kept telling myself it was impossible because what were the odds? Except now I'm wondering if it wasn't odds at all. Maybe we were supposed to find each other, and the app was just the universe's weird way of making it happen. The truth about everything, they moved to the couch. Sitting at opposite ends, the space between them feeling like miles and inches at the same time. Jordan leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, his hands clasped together. I need to understand something, he said. These past 2 weeks, when we were talking every night, were you talking to me as JB or as your boss? As you, Cassidy answered without hesitation. Not the CEO, not my boss. Just you. The person who told me about losing his mom and feeling like he has to be perfect for everyone. The man who sends me terrible puns and asks me about my dreams. That's who I was falling for. Falling for. Jordan's head snapped up. Past tense or present? Cassidy met his eyes, deciding that if she was going to be honest, she might as well be completely honest. Present tense. I'm falling for you right now, even though I know how complicated this is. Even though I know there are a million reasons why this is a terrible idea. Jordan stood up abruptly and walked to the window, his back to her. The silence stretched out, and Cassidy felt her heart sinking. She had ruined everything. He was going to leave, and she would have to see him at work every day, knowing what she had lost. I figured it out about an hour before you sent that message, Jordan said suddenly, his voice quiet. I was lying in bed, thinking about our conversation from Friday, and something you said triggered a memory. The way you phrased something about feeling invisible. Cassidy from marketing had said almost the exact same thing in my office that afternoon. And then I started putting together all these little details. I realized the woman I had been falling for was someone I saw every day. Cassidy stood up, her legs shaky. Why didn't you say something? Because I was terrified. Jordan turned around, and she saw tears in his eyes. I'm your boss, Cassidy. I have power over your job, your career, your livelihood. What if you felt pressured? What if our connection was only real because you didn't know who I was? What if meeting you in person and revealing everything ruined the one genuine thing in my life? So what do we do now? Cassidy asked, wrapping her arms around herself. Jordan crossed the room in 3 long strides, stopping just inches from her. I don't know, but I know I don't want to lose you. These conversations we've been having are the only time I feel like myself anymore. When I'm with you, I'm not the CEO or the guy who has to make all the right decisions. I'm just Jordan, talking to someone who actually gets me. It's a complication nobody expected. Before Cassidy could respond, her phone buzzed with an email notification. She glanced at the screen and felt her blood run cold. It was from Human Resources, marked urgent. What is it? Jordan asked, seeing her expression change. It's from HR. They want to see me first thing Monday morning. Cassidy looked up at him, panic rising in her chest. Do you think someone saw us? Do they know? Jordan pulled out his own phone, his jaw tightening as he read. I got one too. Different time slot. They stared at each other, the implications sinking in. Before either could speak, Cassidy's phone rang. It was a number she didn't recognize, but the area code was local. She answered on speaker. Is this Cassidy Monroe? A woman's voice asked. Yes, who is this? This is Jennifer Hartley from HR. I'm sorry to call on a Saturday evening, but I need to speak with you about a sensitive matter. It's come to our attention that you may be involved in a personal relationship with an executive at the company. I'm calling to inform you that we take workplace relationships very seriously, especially when there's a power differential involved. Cassidy felt like the floor had dropped out from under her. How did you even know? A concerned colleague reported seeing some interactions that raised questions. We'll discuss the details on Monday, but I wanted to give you a heads up. Please don't discuss this with the executive in question before our meeting. The call ended, leaving Cassidy and Jordan staring at the phone in stunned silence. Who could have seen us? Cassidy whispered. We've barely even talked at work. Jordan's expression darkened. Jennifer Hartley. I should have known, you know her. We dated 2 years ago, before she moved to the HR department. It ended badly. She wanted something serious, and I wasn't ready. If she's the one handling this investigation, we have a problem. The impossible choice, this is my fault, Cassidy said, sinking back onto the couch. I should never have let this go on so long. I should have unmatched you the second I realized who you were. Don't. Jordan sat beside her, close enough that their knees touched. Don't you dare take the blame for this. We both made choices. We both kept talking. And honestly, I'm not sorry we did. How can you say that? This could ruin both our careers. You could lose the company you built. I could lose my job and any chance at a future in this industry. Or, Jordan said slowly, we could fight for this. We could be honest about what happened and deal with whatever consequences come. I'm tired of living my life according to what everyone else thinks is appropriate or professional. For once, I want to choose something that makes me happy, even if it's messy. Cassidy looked at him, seeing the determination in his eyes. What are you saying? I'm saying that I don't care if Jennifer Hartley has an agenda. I don't care if the board thinks this is inappropriate. I care that I found someone who makes me want to be honest instead of perfect. Someone who sees past the title and the money and just wants to talk about life and dreams and terrible puns. That person is you, Cassidy, and I'm not ready to walk away from that. But the company, the rules, the power dynamic are all real concerns that we'll have to address, Jordan interrupted. But here's what I know. We didn't meet because you wanted something from me professionally. We met because an algorithm thought we'd be compatible, and it was right. We connected because we're both lonely people looking for something real in a world that feels increasingly fake. That's not manipulation or taking advantage. That's just two people finding each other. The morning after the storm, Cassidy didn't sleep that night. Jordan had left around midnight. Both of them agreeing they needed to think clearly about their next steps before Monday's HR meetings. But lying alone in bed, Cassidy couldn't stop replaying the conversation. The way Jordan had looked at her, the impossible situation they had created together. Sunday morning brought an unexpected visitor. Rachel showed up with coffee and bagels, taking one look at Cassidy's face and immediately wrapping her in a hug. I saw your Instagram story from last night. The cryptic quote about impossible choices. Spill. Cassidy told her everything. Jordan's visit, the HR calls, Jennifer Hartley's history with Jordan, the choice they were facing. Rachel listened quietly, munching on her bagel, then sat back with a thoughtful expression. Okay, so here's what I think. Yes, this is complicated. Yes, there could be professional consequences. But you know what I haven't heard you mention once? Regret. You haven't said you regret matching with him, or falling for him, or any of it. Because I don't, Cassidy admitted. Even knowing how messy this is, I don't regret it, and that's your answer. Not about what's professional or appropriate, but about what matters to you. Do you want to fight for this? Or do you want to walk away and always wonder what if? Monday morning reckoning, Cassidy walked into the HR office at 9 a.m. sharp, her heart pounding but her mind clear. She had made her decision, and whatever happened next, she would face it honestly. Jennifer Hartley sat behind her desk, her expression professionally neutral, but her eyes cold. Thank you for coming in, Cassidy. Please, have a seat. As Cassidy sat down, Jennifer pulled out a folder. I'll get straight to the point. It's been brought to my attention that you've been pursuing a romantic relationship with Jordan Blake, as I'm sure you're aware. Apex Innovations has strict policies about relationships between executives and their subordinates, particularly when there's a direct or indirect reporting structure involved. With all due respect, Ms. Hartley, that's not accurate, Cassidy said, keeping her voice steady. Jordan and I met through a dating app before either of us knew who the other was professionally. We connected as two people, not as employee and CEO. Jennifer's expression hardened. The method of meeting is irrelevant. The fact is, you continued this relationship after discovering his identity, which shows poor judgment at best and potential misconduct at worst. Or it shows that two people found a genuine connection and didn't want to let corporate policies dictate their personal lives. Cassidy countered. We haven't violated any workplace rules. We haven't discussed business matters inappropriately. We simply got to know each other as human beings. Nevertheless, this situation creates a conflict of interest and potential liability for the company. I'm recommending that we transfer you to our Seattle office, effective immediately. It's the cleanest solution for everyone involved. Before Cassidy could respond, there was a knock on the door. Jordan walked in without waiting for permission, his expression stern. I need to speak with Ms. Monroe privately, Jennifer said coldly. And I need to speak with both of you, Jordan replied. Because whatever decisions are being made about Cassidy's employment, I have a right to be part of this conversation. The stand that changed everything. Jordan sat down beside Cassidy, A deliberate choice that didn't go unnoticed. Jennifer's jaw tightened. Jordan, I'm trying to handle this professionally. Your involvement only complicates matters. Then let me simplify things, Jordan said. Cassidy and I met through a dating app completely by chance. We built a connection before either of us knew about the professional relationship. When we discovered the truth, we handled it exactly as we should have, with honesty and transparency. If the company has a problem with two people finding each other outside of work, then maybe the problem is with the policy, not the people. You're the CEO, Jennifer said sharply. You can't just ignore policies because they're inconvenient for you personally. You're right. Which is why I'm proposing a solution. Jordan pulled out a document from his briefcase. I've drafted a new workplace relationship policy that addresses situations exactly like this. It includes disclosure requirements, third-party oversight for any professional decisions involving both parties, and clear boundaries. It protects both the company and the individuals involved. Jennifer looked at the document, her expression unreadable. This still doesn't address the current situation. It does if we implement it retroactively and have Cassidy's performance reviewed by an independent committee. If there's been any hint of favoritism or inappropriate behavior, address it. But don't punish someone for finding happiness in an unexpected place. Cassidy felt tears prickling her eyes as she listened to Jordan advocate for them. For the possibility of building something real without sacrificing their careers, Jennifer was quiet for a long moment, then sighed. I'll need to present this to the board. And Jordan, you need to understand that dating an employee, even under these circumstances, will invite scrutiny. People will question every decision you make regarding her department. Let them question, Jordan said simply. I've spent my entire career worrying about what people think. For once, I'm choosing what makes me happy and trusting that I can still do my job with integrity. 6 months later, Cassidy stood in Jordan's apartment. Looking out at the Seattle skyline through the floor-to-ceiling windows, they had decided to both relocate to the company's Seattle office. A fresh start that removed some of the immediate complications while they figured out their relationship. The board had approved Jordan's new policy with conditions. Cassidy reported to a different executive. All her performance reviews were conducted by third parties, and both of them had to complete ethics training. It wasn't perfect, but it was workable.